So, welcome to another meeting of the Green Reviews Working Group. This meeting is part of the CNCF and the Code of Conduct applies, which can be summarized to everyone be excellent to one another. And the meeting notes can be found here. I just shared them a minute ago. I'll share them again for newcomers. And I don't think anyone is new, but if anyone would like to say hi, you're welcome to. And if you could add your names to the attendees list in the meeting notes, that would be great. Thank you. So on the agenda today, we have proposal 1 updates and proposal 2 updates. So with proposal 1, I can share my screen also. Also, if anyone would like to take notes while I'm hosting, I cannot do both. That would be really great. Let's look at proposal 1. Right, we had a pull request to update the proposal 1. We made some changes. I don't know if folks are familiar with proposal 1, if everyone has read it, or if not, like, are there any blockers? Does anyone want more information about it? The update, one important thing that was introduced here is this JSON where we have a list of projects such as Falco, and we have we had subcomponents before as a field, but now we have config for configurations of the field. And that will allow us to test the different configurations of Falco. They're not subcomponents of Falco, they are all just different ways of deploying Falco. So that's a big update from this PR. Yeah, I mean, Ross and Dipanka are leading proposal 1 and they're not here right now, but I know there is an issue and we have a volunteer for it, so otherwise, like, we'll continue. Yeah, Valeria volunteered for this. I think that the pipeline itself is running well. I think there were some changes that were merged last week for the triggering part of the pipeline, and yeah, it's being worked on. Right now, I think we removed some parts of it so that it runs without any issues, and we'll resume once Ross is back from PTO. So that's all the updates, I think, from the last couple of weeks on proposal 1. We can move on to proposal 2. So proposal 2 that Flavia and I are working on, and we've had some review feedback. Folks are very welcome to read proposal 2, and I mean, if you'd like to wait so that we have implemented some of this feedback, you're welcome to. I think we're going to be doing that this week. If you want to wait, feel free to do so. Otherwise, this PR is open for your review. Is anyone interested in like taking a look and getting more involved with proposal 2? Or are there any questions, anything that we can answer right now?
Are there any open questions or things like we specifically should take a look at, or just the entire document? Is there like specific, I don't know, decisions or whatever that are more like central or have more impact or than others?
There was one, I think, question that you posed, Nikki, about how, like, if we have only one workflow per CNCF project, and I don't know. I think maybe we all agree it's okay to do it simpler and have one, but I don't know if in the end you read all the comments, Nikki, or you have something else.
Yeah, so it would be a workflow where we list the different test instructions one after the other, or I think that was the question. Like here we have one workflow.
I have a couple questions that are light, I think. So if I am, for instance, trying to compare two service meshes, say I'll pick on Istio and Linkerd, right? As far as power use, is there a recommended app? Or if, you know, all that stuff. But then if you're using Falco, you want a Falco and like maybe another security product comparison, or maybe version to version comparison. You want to make sure that the people running it stay on the same stack. So is that captured somewhere in this?
I don't know if I understand the question.
You want your underlying infrastructure to be equivalent when you're doing test to test. So say I'm trying to track if there is a version change.
Okay.
Power issue, right?
Yeah,
You have to be.
I think the simple answer is no, it's not captured at this level, right? Like your request is more high level. So what happens if we do two, like if there are two versions of Falco that we would like to compare, or like compare Falco to a competitor, right? But this is not captured here. Here it's only given that we have an update from a project and that we have some benchmark that we would like to run, how we actually make sure that the GitHub action executes the right steps to have the benchmarking run for this project. So like we are still one step before that, having like two possible comparisons. We are building the automation of the pipeline for getting the numbers out, sustainability metrics out.
Okay, so you're doing the automation, just to sum it up. Yeah, you're doing the automation first, and then you'll start looking at the actual guidance documents, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Like we were trying to standardize an approach so that we can extend it to other projects easily. So we're trying to build a better bulletproof system, so to say.
I sort of more as part of a different bunch of benchmarking I've been doing, but also related to this, I've been trying to create what I think you're referring to, like a standard stack. It's probably going to, for me, become Ross recommended this mini PC, which I bought because I can't afford to keep paying for cloud. so that will probably more dictate what it is, to be honest with you. And I don't know, I think we just pick something that is affordable and reasonably standard, but I've been trying to do that myself as well. And I've kept my baseline pretty low spec, almost intentionally for different reasons, for cost, but also for just availability. But is that what you mean? Like having a standard machine that we reference everything from?
Yeah, so I'm talking hardware all the way up to the software
Yep.
stack. So the
Yep,
entire,
yep. The software is probably the more complex part.
ish. So I mean, we're running an Equinix, and I don't know if
okay.
in this particular environment we can ask for particular machines. So
We
you,
do. Mhm.
Yeah.
Everything is infrastructure as code, so everything that we do is it can be found through Git commit
Yeah.
like SHA to find out exactly what infrastructure and software versioning we are using at any given point. And we will
I'll have-
have the Git SHA as part of the test output, I imagine, so that we can trace back to exactly what version we had of everything.
I'll take a look at that one. I did try and use Equinix, and I actually had like a couple of $100 of credit, but I got completely stuck with it and gave up on it. so I don't know. As always, for some reason, authentication always just ends up getting me stuck in some kind of loop, and then I give up on it. But yeah, I could see. I think Ross did share something with me, and I couldn't find.
maybe you can wait for him to come back from PTO, and maybe you can sync with him and have him help you through that, unless someone else is available.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we have the Equinix configuration here. That's helpful. Marlo, to your question, were you saying that we should have everything the same, or that we should have everything traceable? So we should be able to trace, for example, the machine type that we used at a given test run, but that doesn't necessarily, well, I mean, that will actually remain a constant, but I imagine like the version of software will change, so we think of the dependencies. So would you say that we should keep as much as possible constant, and how do we manage the things that do vary per test run?
I think you should keep whatever you can constant, because just changing like a kernel version, sometimes some of the underlying syscalls, the speed will change. So the problem with benchmarking, and the hardest part of benchmarking is making sure that you're not introducing other unexpected factors. Sometimes you can do better by doing a pile of runs, but if you've if, for instance, the kernel version changes, you have to redo your baseline. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like a lot of those questions come also in previous meetings, like how we're gonna do benchmarking, and like that's why we have one of the proposal for is like an investigation, so which like should hopefully cover all of those questions, like what kind of environment is the best, like what shall we fix and what shall change, and like it's tough right now to answer this question also because we only had one project that requested a green review, but hopefully all those questions will be taken in this exploration. So like what does it mean to have a benchmarking which should be standard? Because also there is like the question of, okay, some specific projects have specific running runtime environment that they wanna, or like some specific yeah, like metrics that they want to get to see, okay, it's a meaningful experiment that we're running for metrics reviews, and then they'll have different benchmarking, and yeah, like all of this question, like we need to think a bit about it. I tried to, yeah, like proposal for benchmark investigation is like one place where I try to list down some of these open questions. I would be like still is like open for like who would like to take ownership about this. And here I think like your questions, you said like what kind of also operative system or syscall kernel version should be same with run to run. Like all of this can be, all of those questions can be thrown here.
Yeah, I think once we have, so now we're doing the automation we have the trigger part of the pipeline. We're doing the automation around calling the benchmark test from the different CNCF projects. And then we're going to do the data collection automation. And then we're doing the proposal 4 will be, yeah, this like diving deeper into the benchmarking itself. So once we have the automation in place, we'll be able to look at, how can we follow best practices, such as what you mentioned, Marlo. Yeah, the sooner we can get proposal 2 merged and implemented, the sooner we can get to the data collection part and everything else. Right. So we can also work on this async, but for the workflow question, so once we have the job workflow, right, do we have multiple job workflows or a single workflow for all of the jobs? And by job, we mean the benchmark job with the test instructions, because we do have 3 benchmark test instructions for Falco. We have one that does test, what was it? Test NG?
Stress
Yes,
NG.
Stress NG. Right, we have the stress test, and we have Redis test, and we have event generator test. If we have one workflow with multiple jobs, I'm just wondering how, I mean, we can always split this later, but how will we do the data collection per benchmark test if all 3 are in the same manifest? I think it would be more modular if they are in different ones or not, or yes.
Can you potentially make a script that pulls in a manifest and spits out something? So you just say, I want to run Falco, so please generate Falco manifest, and then it just generates the Falco manifest for you from an existing manifest, so you can have the base piece the same, right? And you just slot in the project.
Yeah, here we do have something like that, and we have JSON, or yeah, JSON object with everything, all the benchmark tests for Falco, for example. Wait, no, this is what we are doing as part of this. This is the idea that like we want to have another field in that JSON file, and I think there is a script to fetch the manifest per test. Oh no, I'm not sure that we do that.
If Marlo, if you refer to the installation of the deployment of Falco, that's Yeah, that's the same. I mean, we have a separate, that's in proposal one, how Falco or the CNCF project is installed and cleaned up, if that's what you mean.
Yes, exactly. The proposal one is about deploying, and Falco gives us a manifest file that we reference, and we apply always the same. This is more about having the good, like a good runtime environment. Like for example, the Falco teams had some kernel event rate that they wanted to see, and then they needed some kind of input output activities, networking events, and that's why they had these three different benchmark technologies that combine together, kind of simulate a good production scenario for Falco. And I think that's one of the reasons why we cannot have it modular, because like if I remember correctly, they needed to have all of the three benchmarking running together to simulate the right kernel event rate and the right metrics that the Falco team wanted. That's why we gave it on their side. So that's why I think it would make sense to deploy all of them together and not have them modular, because like we can only have metrics after we have the right runtime environment. At least that's the way I understood it.
Then that would answer your question. If for Falco, it's we have separate several tests, or we have one, so everything is deployed, all this stress and G or whatever, and that is measured all at the same time. So then having one workflow is okay, also for Falco.
But I imagine if we are running 3 benchmark tests one after the other, we do need to clean up between benchmark tests. We can't run one after the other. I guess it depends.
I think we assume it's only one.
So we would do only one. We would choose one of the 3 benchmark tests and only run one.
Yeah.
This is what I understand from the suggestion of Rosa and Antonio.
Yeah, because like if one of the ideas were like having like one of the concern you expressed, Nikki, if I got that correctly, was that like it would have been more modular to have one benchmark and then get the metrics for that benchmark, and then like the other benchmark and then like measure something for the second benchmark. But this is not the case for Falco. Falco wanted the 3 benchmarks to run together, and then like we should get the metrics only after this production environment, they call it, it's recreated or like resimulated. And for that, we need all the 3 benchmarks to run together to hit the kernel event rate and so on.
Okay, so the idea is we are running. Wait, I feel like I'm hearing different things from Antonia and Flavia though. Flavia, are you saying we should run only one of the 3 benchmark tests for Falco, and Antonia, you're saying we should run the 3 one after the other?
No, like the 3 of them. So that what I understand from there, we need to run the 3 of them and then measure that, like when they are running the 3 of them. So then it's one, then it's okay to do one workflow.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's one of 2 cases, just so I understand. Either the 3 benchmarks comprise a single benchmark that you're expecting to run, or they are separate things that run at different times. Are they 3 benchmarks that run at the same time? Because that's what I'm hearing Antonio say. That's really one benchmark. Or are they 3 subsequent benchmarks who run one after the other?
No, they run at the same time. So I think stress is more the hardware, and like the event generator is stressing more the networking. And don't know why Redis is there. We should ask the Falco team, but yeah, the idea is that they all run at the same time. At least that's how we collected the metrics in the first place. And then yeah, Leo is his hands up. You want to say something?
Yes. So probably this information we should kind of offload this to the maintainers, so that we are that we kind of support maybe both ways or just one way. I don't know, but like if I imagine, if we onboard future projects, every project has like one specific quirk how to run these benchmarks. Would be good to kind of capsule this away, so we don't really care, because then they can just define in their file or in some manifest which defines the benchmarking. This is running at the same time. This is like one job, or this is like just like subsequent jobs, or like on different machines, even that we have to start for every job a new machine, maybe.
But more broadly speaking, are we planning to have, like, whether this is whether we apply like the Falco event generator at the same time as Redis, at the same time as StressNG, and we call this one benchmark test, is one thing. Do we envision supporting different benchmark tests, like entirely separate benchmark tests per CNCF project, or would we only support one per project? Like, are we having a one-to-many relationship or one-to-one? I think that's the
You can
question
start
we
with
have.
one.
Yeah, one-to-one.
Just one benchmark? But
They
for
are
some tools,
technically
it may be-
3. Sorry, go ahead, Leo. Can you repeat?
Yeah, I was just thinking, probably, I mean, it depends like what this means. Is it just like one benchmark in terms of like just one script, and the script can contain multiple different instances of things that we test? Or is one benchmark just that we test these events, for example? So what is our understanding of one benchmark? Because I think like there are plenty of projects, service meshes and so on. They have like plenty of different features, which would probably be different benchmarks. Or I could see this being one of the asks.
Yeah, Antonio?
Yeah. So I think like one of the so I think Nikki, yours is a very good question, and one of the big difficulties of this process is to balance the long-term or medium-term expected behavior with what we should deploy right now, right? And because yeah, like the question of like, are we packaging everything in a single benchmark step, and then like, are we allowing people to define the sub component of these benchmark steps either from outside or inside? This is tough to know, because we don't know what will the next project be, and like what the next project requirement will be. And not to mention that we also have the additional concern, which is more into proposal 4, which is also like a question mark, which is like, if imagine like we have Falco, and then like we have another project, and they have a subset of benchmarks steps, and the other project has completely different subset of steps. So I don't know, Falco runs Redis, StressNG, and event generator, and another project runs completely another thing. And then like, how are we going to compare them? So yeah, this was a little so it's tough, because we don't know what will be in the future, and we also need to shape it a bit, right? But I would keep things simple and say we have one benchmark step and like this modules of the steps, so like the actions can be defined either internally or externally. And then like once we talk to the second project, we can see the details of this, if this, because either way, like it will change. So we don't need to take the perfect decision now. We can make an assumption and say, like, for now we have one benchmark, only one benchmark, so like a one-to-one relation, and then like we can get it more complex later, I would say. So let's keep it, because otherwise we lose ourselves in this discussion how it's gonna shape, like it's gonna be different in the future, and then we lose a bit of track with actually implementing the thing.
Yeah, I agree. That we can start with a one-to-one relationship and move to one-to-many in the future. And I think it would be possible to loop over. Leo?
Yep, I think this sounds very good to me. So we kind of expect that, I don't know, like in half a year or so, we will refactor most likely the pipeline quite a bit, because with this proposal, it's getting tough, or we expect to have like some challenges in the future. But I think this sounds very reasonable to, I mean, we don't have these projects right now, so it's not possible to make a decision. So we need to refactor anyways. So this sounds very good.
Yeah, I think we should also save this kind of question marks that we had into possible, like there is a section of the documentation like alternatives, right? And then like we have this one-to-many alternatives. We have considered this, but for simplicity, we're just gonna stick with one-to-one now, and so that like we have a placeholder somewhere to see, okay, we had this discussion already. We knew that this was going to come, but for the moment we made we simplified a bit the approach.
Yep. Added that we can, yeah, we can specify this part. Great. I think that was a really good discussion. And again, it doesn't stop us from running the 3 test instructions, to use the terminology that we are trying to make. Like Flavia and I thought a lot about the terminology that we want to use for the different parts of the pipeline, and we really want to focus on test instruction being the actual steps of the test itself. So we can have test instructions for the Redis test, the event generator test, and stress ng as part of one benchmark test, if that is what Falco, that's what the Falco maintainers envisioned from the beginning, like that these 3 test instructions are actually running together, so that it's testing 3 different parts of Falco at once. But then this is one benchmark test, actually, like it counts as one. Right?
Yeah,
correct summary.
I think you did a great job defining this little terminology, because it also facilitated the discussion right now, so that we know what we're talking about. So always it's the most difficult thing to name things in computer science, but I think you really did a good job.
Thank you. We reiterated terminology like 4 times, Flavia and I. So it's good that it's helpful. Any other question or comment about proposal 2? No, we'll be implementing the feedback and then ask for a review again. So if you want to wait until we've made the changes before reviewing again, that's okay right now. And right, Next thing on our agenda, do we have anything else? Next steps. Maybe with
Yeah.
the remaining time, we can talk about proposal 3 and 4 and anything else.
I think we need to kick them off.
I've started doing the kind of setup and research for 3. My next step will be to look. There's a link to the Falco the metrics that the Falco team. Yeah, here we go. This comment. So that now I will basically probably figure out how to extract those into the Grafana dashboard, I guess that's what I need to do next. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have now implemented Prometheus support, so there's
Yeah, okay,
Prometheus
yeah.
metrics.
Yeah. But to pull them in and then display them with the current Kepler generated stuff. I guess. I'm not sure. I need to look into that side. It's been a little while since I've done Prometheus and Grafana stuff, so I just need to. That's what I'm going to next, though. Is this comment?
Yeah, I think also an important chunk of this proposal is to envision what kind of database or storage layer we have. So, and like, what do we want to keep in this storage layer? So also how to structure, for example, I don't know, that a Falco requested a green review for version 1.x, and then like it comes
Okay, yeah.
like this, all this kind of like also the steps of, okay, we gather the data, but we also save it somewhere.
Yeah.
Where,
Yeah.
with what structure, with what technology, that it's
Yeah.
like the tough part, so to say, of this.
Yeah. Actually,
proposal.
one other quick thing. So for this one, and maybe this relates to the previous 2, but I'm kind of catching up a bit. Do you have I think that's what you were just talking about, but do you have a workload you throw at Falco? Because I've just been using their default, like, they have a default command to test it, which is very basic. So do you have something you've been throwing at it as a workload? Is that in
Yeah,
one of the other?
I think we have referred to benchmark, but what they are really workloads. So this 3
Perfect.
StressNG, Redis, and event generator from I
Yeah.
think it's a Google Cloud project. They have and like those 3 combined, it's what they said it's enough of a
Okay.
workflow.
Cool. I will start now. I've kind of got my setup working. I can actually throw something realistic at it.
Great.
Now I've got it kind of working in a reproducible way.
That's also very, very important to
Yeah.
have like more documentation around how to reproduce.
At the moment, I'm reproducing it on my machine, which is completely irrelevant because I'm using Apple Silicon machine, so it's completely useless. But the principles I'm understanding at least. So this is yeah, and but most of it's the same. But yeah, this now I will take this part and try that.
There is a lot of context in this repository. I don't know if you have had a look at it.
I mean, I have, but there's a lot to look at. And,
Yeah, there's a lot.
I kind of just looking at the things when I need to, I suppose, which isn't the best way, but yeah.
Also, Ross did this change last week to change the structure of this repo. Maybe it makes it easier to find things because the benchmark tests are in this here. So this is what we show
Okay.
at Falco.
Yep. Okay, good. Now, yeah. Okay, cool. And I will try to do some of this in the next week or so. There's also a big event here next week that will take up some of the week, but I will try and do some of it in the next week or two.
Great. All right. Oh, yeah, there is one thing that I wanted to bring up also, but with the data collection aspect, we would need, as Antonio mentioned, some kind of long-term storage. I know, for example, Kepler CI are doing, they have, what do they have? They have everything shown on a page, like in a table. It's a very basic setup. It's a on the website they host, and I'm not sure. Oh, it's here actually. They just have this table with test results that they just append test results to this table. That is a good starting point in itself. I imagine that it's just added here probably, or yeah, I'm not sure where, like in the repo. We do have access to AWS, so we could have access to an S3 bucket. We could do it in the repo. These are a couple of things we've thought about. But yeah, how we store the output of tests is a big question mark. Yeah.
Actually, like the idea of keeping things simple also here, and like we'll have the problem when it scales, so we can have different tables in a file to start. I wouldn't bother S3 or something like this. I wouldn't lock into any cloud provider. We can, so to say, copy the approach of Kepler. Anyway, we only have we don't have, like, it's a more of a question of what kind of metrics do we want to save. So if we end up having, I don't know, 40 columns, then maybe the file doesn't work too much. But if we have I don't know, if we keep like, I don't know, less than 10 metrics that we want to save, then it could eventually work out. But
Yeah.
feel free to shape your proposal accordingly.
And this is done by, like, in the pipeline itself. It looks like they just append the output in Markdown. It's just that they're doing something similar, and we can take ideas from what they're doing. But yeah, I don't want to. I mean, maybe this is not at all what we want to do, and that's totally fine. It's just an idea.
I think it's good, simple enough to get us started, because this is like the biggest challenge to get started, and then we can improve on the way.
Yeah. Great.
So Chris, if you're busy with the setup, I can try to draft something, and then we can work on top.
Yeah, I think that's actually the bit that's holding me back the most, is I don't really know what is meant by a proposal.
Mhm.
Yeah, what's
there's some documentation you've seen. Where is it?
Yeah, you can also take a look at what Ross and Nikki did.
okay. Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
that's enough to get started. But if you want, we
Okay.
can also like organize a session during the week, and we can try to
Yeah,
do
that
this
might be
together.
helpful, because I'm sort of dual. I'm trying to understand the setup of things and all the understand how to use Falco and Kepler, plus understand what is meant by a proposal. So it may be easier to give me just maybe another week to just try those the test setup here, so I understand what that's doing. And then I think I'll be in a better position.
All right, just ping me whenever you're ready, and
Okay.
if I don't hear from you, I'll start drafting something, and then we can start from there.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Great. So I think we're in a good place right now. Any other topics we haven't discussed? Any questions? I think we're good to go, and we can end a few minutes earlier. So yeah, any questions from anyone we can discuss in the channel. And yeah, thank you all for joining. And I'm gonna stop recording.